Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pat's Pulpit pregame show. I am Rich Hill, managing editor of Pat's Pulpit, and with me, as always, is Alec Shane. Alec, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm doing well. It was a interesting weekend here around the Shane household for reasons I won't get into. I don't want to bore anybody, but I'm glad it's football Sunday. I've got my T-shirt and my shorts on because it's hot in here because the heat's on the fritz, and I'm ready to go.
Hey, what's with that polo? It looks really good.
Oh, thanks, buddy. This is a official Pat's Pulpit polo shirt. I'm hoping to have these available for everybody who wants one, who's willing to donate to the Best Buddies Challenge. It's up on the main page. There's going to be some incentives for guys who donate and girls who donate to the cause. There's going to be polos, hats, scullies, T-shirts. I'm working out some details and jump through some hoops, but hopefully I'll have more for you guys a little later on about that. But yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Oh, that's fantastic. It looks slick. And so maybe you'll meet Tom Brady again, and it'll be everything that you hoped for.
Here's hoping, buddy.
Yeah, so we are in week 13 of the NFL season, and we were actually talking about this before we started. There are a lot of really good games this week. I think that I don't know how they scheduled it. I don't know whether it was intentional or not, but I think the first 8 weeks, 9 weeks of the season were all just really boring games. They didn't really have too many good matchups. Maybe that was luck of the draw. But for the past few weeks, I have to say, the games have been fantastic. I think that the ratings have improved across the board. But this week specifically, I know that people will be watching, if you're not watching the Patriots-Rams, the Dolphins-Ravens presents a very interesting matchup for the Patriots. But that's not even the best game. I think that the Chiefs and Falcons will be very, very it's going to be excellent. Those are two of the top teams in the NFL. I think that the Dolphins and the Ravens are definitely in the second tier of talent, but the Chiefs and Falcons are both contenders. So that's going to be a game to watch. The Bills are facing the Raiders at 4:05. And the night game, Panthers-Seahawks. I know that the Panthers have really fallen off, but I think that this should be a really interesting matchup. But, Alec, let's start with the Dolphins and Ravens because this is very, very relevant to the Patriots. Not necessarily on the Patriots' heels, but they are still well within contention. They are sitting at 7-4. They are the 6th seed currently in the AFC, and they're facing the Ravens, who are the leaders. I don't know if they're a half game back now, but they're the leaders in the AFC North, and they are at 6-5. So these are two playoff teams. I don't think that they have any real shots at it. I'd be actually surprised if both of these teams, if either of them, made the playoffs. But this has a lot of implications for the Patriots. Are you going to try and flip back between these two games?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to try and do that. This is basically a playoff game for these two teams. I feel like the team that loses this one will have a much tougher road to hoe going into the postseason. And it's funny, as a Patriots fan, you obviously want to win the division first, so you got to be rooting for the Ravens, I guess, as your kind of first knee-jerk reaction. But then you look ahead to the postseason, and which team don't you want to face? We all know that Baltimore in the playoffs is no joke. So I'm not exactly sure who to be rooting for in this game. I guess I can pull for a tie. And you know what? That's actually on the table this year in the NFL. A lot of weird, funky ties. So you never know. But I think, honestly, deep down, I'm still pulling for the Dolphins, to be honest with you, because I think I feel much more confident about taking the division than I do about facing Baltimore in the postseason. So even though I should, on paper, root for the Ravens in this game for the division wrap-up, I'm just going for the Dolphins here. I am. Interesting.
I'm actually pulling for the Ravens here. I'm fully supportive of you need to win the division first. I think that the Dolphins winning streak, I don't want to say they've beaten anyone great over that span of time, but they are definitely worth monitoring. And the last thing I want is for that week 17 game between the Patriots and the Dolphins to matter. I want the Dolphins to be eliminated. I want the Patriots to have the division locked up by week 15. I want it to be in the books. I want the Patriots, because think of it this way. If the Patriots win the division, they get a bye week. That's the way that this league is crumbling right now. If the Patriots win the next couple of games, then the winner of the AFC East is guaranteed a bye. That's where you want to be. That's where you have to be. And so if you can get two birds with one stone, if you can get a first-round bye and the division within a fell swoop, you got to take it.
No, again, you're going by the book, and I like it, but there's just something about, again, if I had to go down my absolute nightmare scenario of postseason, it'd be first-round bye, hosting Baltimore in the divisional game, traveling to Denver for the AFC Championship, and then playing the Giants in the Super Bowl. Like, that's just the worst thing I could possibly think of right now. And anything that can happen over the next couple of weeks to avoid that, I am going to go all in on, because I can't handle that emotionally.
Well, I love that your worst thing that you can't handle is reaching the Super Bowl and facing the Giants. So it's a pretty good season. Moving on to another game that I think is interesting is the Chiefs and the Falcons, where the Chiefs right now, they are the 5th seed in the AFC. They're trailing the Raiders in the AFC West. They beat the Broncos, so they have that edge in the division, but they are facing the Atlanta Falcons, who are currently atop the NFC South. And so these are two playoff teams. I think that the Falcons have the number 1 offense in the league. The Chiefs are very well balanced. I think that they need to win this game, though, if they are going to keep pace in the AFC West. We talked a little bit about this last week and on the podcast. If you had to choose between the Raiders or the Chiefs winning the AFC West and possibly contending for the first round bye, who would you rather see win?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the Raiders are really a big question mark from a path perspective, at least. We haven't really played them in a competitive capacity in a very long time. And I just don't know what they're going to be as a playoff team. Both teams offer very strong home field advantages. Though I guess if you want to go by recent memory, you all remember that Monday night game in 2014 at Kansas City where it was just loud. It was raucous. Tom Brady had several picks, including a pick 6. They looked terrible. Jimmy Garoppolo had to come in to finish out. Brady was dead to them. The whole narrative that unfolded because of that Kansas City game. You just got to think about that going into that question you just asked. So I guess just due to uncertainty, I'm going to go with the Raiders because I don't know what Carr brings to the table as a postseason quarterback. Their offense isn't that great, Raiders. Their defense, their offense is fantastic. Their defense isn't that great. And so I think they offer a little bit more of a team in flux, so to speak, than the Chiefs do. Because the Chiefs have a very strong home field advantage. They've been to the postseason before. They know what it takes to get there. So I guess I'd rather see the Raiders take it and then have the Chiefs go on the road.
I agree with that too. I think I remember last season when the Patriots played the Chiefs, it was a lot closer than you wanted it to be. And I know that the Patriots were dealing with some injuries. I know that Julian Edelman wasn't 100%, but that game was still a lot closer than you wanted, especially against Andy Reid, who I feel like, I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I'm saying that if it were any other coach, the Chiefs probably would have won. I think that Andy Reid is a negative 7 point when it comes time for the playoffs. So I think that I would rather see, as you said, I'd rather see the Chiefs have to go play in the wild card round on the road. If they're the 5th seed, which they most likely will be, it'll be a toss-up. Maybe they'll play the Texans. Maybe they'll play the Colts. Maybe they'll actually end up playing the Steelers. And I could see that wiping out the Chiefs. And I'd rather see the Patriots play a team in the playoffs where it's a shootout. I'd rather see the Patriots go out there and say, all right, we need to put up 30 points to win, because I'd much rather see that happen than a slug-it-out game, because I don't think the Patriots defense is capable of doing that.
No, and they're definitely not. And, shootouts might be a factor as well with a certain injury to the team we can talk about a little later on in this preview before we finish going around the league. But we're still in the AFC West here, Rich. I want to stay there for a second. The Broncos versus the Jaguars doesn't seem like much of a matchup. However, the Broncos are without their starting quarterback today. Do you think that'll play any factor whatsoever, even though they're going on the road to Jacksonville, which is a historically easy place to play for a lot of reasons? Any chance the Jags pull an upset today?
I hope so, but I don't see it happening. I think that this Jaguars team is just terrible. They have bad coaching. I do think they have talent on the team. I do. I honestly think that the Jaguars have talent on the team. They just have no idea how to use it. And I don't see them figuring it out here. And I see this Denver Broncos defense eating Blake Bortles alive. I see him throwing 3 interceptions in the first half and a forced fumble. And I just see this just done. And I feel like the Broncos defense will give the ball back over to the offense with good enough field position. And Paxton Lynch, who's the backup, who's going to be the starter with Simeon out, he's still a rookie, but I think enough field position that he can put up 20 points. And that's all I think that it'll take to beat the Jaguars here.
Yeah, I agree. I was hoping you'd say something else, but I think that's the case. I feel like a Broncos loss to Jacksonville in Jacksonville would be a nice little early Christmas present for yours truly. And then the other game I want to talk about a little bit before we get on to the pregame preview for the Patriots is Giants-Steelers, one of the later games this afternoon. These are two teams who desperately need a win. They're both in second place in their division. The Giants are much farther behind the Cowboys, obviously. I think the Cowboys can clinch a playoff spot with a loss by the Redskins today if they're at Arizona. But the Steelers are kind of coming into their own a little bit. They need to keep pace with the Ravens. They're obviously going to be monitoring that Dolphins-Ravens game very closely. It's in Pittsburgh. The Giants are rattling. I think they're also won 6 straight, unless I'm mistaken. So both teams are looking to continue some momentum going. What are your thoughts on this game, Rich? How do you feel about the Giants-Steelers? It looks like Rich.
You have and down that I really like Emmanuel Sanders more than a lot of people. I would put him up there. When you look at the quarterback comparison, these are both two guys drafted in the 2004 year. Eli Manning, Ben Roethlisberger. I don't think that they really have a connection, but they do have a lot of that overlap. Same with Phillip Rivers, who came out of that same year. So I think that you have a really to make a contest here, make any real noise in playoffs. Whereas I think that the Giants have invested a lot into their team. You look at their defensive tackle; they added Damon Harrison in free agent, or Jenkins. They have a lot of players there. Jason Pierre-Paul is playing out of his mind. That you have to watch out for.
No, for sure. I mean, I'm glad it's one of the later games today because that way I can kind of tune in and watch it. I don't really care that much about the Cardinals game, and so that'll be a game I'm definitely keeping my eye on for the afternoon slate. We've also got the Monday night game of the Colts and the Jets that I probably won't be watching. That was once possibly slated as a good matchup, but I don't think either of those teams is really going anywhere. I don't think either of them have much a shot to make the postseason, and I'm not even sure what Andrew Luck is doing in terms of concussion protocol. So it might just be a throwaway game that I might even have on in the background as I'm doing stuff around the house. But overall, though, I think it's a pretty solid slate of games. I'm really excited to see what these teams all bring to the table today. I think the postseason picture will be a lot more clear once these games are over, especially by tonight when the Seahawks and Panthers play. But overall, it's a pretty solid week of football, and I'm excited for it. Not the least of which highlighted by the Patriots and Rams coming up at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I feel like there is a lot to talk about with this game. If you remember, Rich, when we first started going together on these podcasts and the previews and whatnot, I was thinking about this possible game as the game where the Patriots dropped that one that I just don't see how to do it. Like, they always seem to do this. They lose this game they shouldn't lose. They inexplicably drop a game. And this seemed like the prime game for that to happen. However, that said now, I don't know. We'll get to my predictions a little later on. But I guess I will just finish by saying I am significantly less worried about this game than I was before the season actually started because the Rams aren't that good to begin with. And B, maybe we should go over the inactives a little bit here, Rich, because I think they have some pretty key players for St. Louis inactive today. Rich, you there? We may have lost our good buddy Rich Hill. Luckily for me, I really enjoy rambling, so I can keep talking here, Rich. I think the people want to see me anyway. They only want to see you to begin with. So luckily for you, you guys are welcome today. You have no more Rich Hill. Maybe he'll come back a little bit. But until he does, I'm going to keep talking about what's going on today in the game. Hopefully Rich will jump back in once his internet unfreezes or whatnot. So inactives for the Rams today. Pretty key players. Wide receiver Tavon Austin is inactive. Sean Mannion, the quarterback, not really that big a deal. But Pace Murphy, their offensive tackle. Robert Quinn, they're one of their stronger defensive ends. Roger Saffold, their best offensive lineman. Steve Williams, one of their defensive backs. And Tamarick Hemingway, their tight end. All inactive for the Rams today. No Tavon Austin is huge. He brings a huge skill set to the table. He's got good hands. He's very fast. He's the kind of guy that could burn the Patriots deep off screenplays in the running game. He's a very versatile player. Very curious to see how they can even begin to handle their offense without him in the lineup. Robert Quinn, very strong defensive end, obviously. He's not their best player on the defensive line, but he's still a guy they're going to miss. And then Roger Saffold had hand surgery earlier this week and is thus unable to participate in the game. So all pretty major inactives for the Patriots versus New England. There's not really anybody besides the obvious Rob Gronkowski. It's just Woodrow Hamilton, Jordan Richards, Matthew Slater are the main guys. You've got DJ Foster, Justin Colvin, Lee Adrian Waddle rounding out the inactives list. But overall, I think that the inactives at least go well towards towards the Patriots' favor. And I will keep talking unless, Rich, are you back or are you still frozen? Rich is still frozen, so we're going to keep going with me this day, and that's okay. So the basic thing I think what we should talk about with Patriots versus the Rams this afternoon is how good is this Rams defense? I think the offense is not something to worry about, but the Rams defense is pretty legit. They've got a very strong defensive line. They have one of the best players, if not the best player in the NFL defensively, in Aaron Donald. Dominique easily makes a return to New England. Who knows how mad he will be about any of the actions that went on, I guess I'll say, around New England. So there's a lot to talk about in terms of the defensive line against the Patriots offensive line, because that's going to be the big matchup today, I think, the Patriots O versus the Rams D. Brady has Edelman. He's healthy. He's active today. Brady has Chris Hogan. He's active today. Look for Danny Amendola to get an increased role now. Malcolm Mitchell with an increased role now. And Martellus Bennett, obviously, hopefully his ankle is good enough to continue going an upward trajectory. Now, I guess this is good times today to talk about Gronk. Gronk is out. He's out for the rest of the season. There were some initial hopes he'd be around. He'd have back surgery, be back maybe in time for the Super Bowl, should the Patriots make it there. But that is no longer the case. So the real question is, the discussion to be had is, can the Patriots maintain their momentum? Can they maintain a strong offensive philosophy without Gronkowski in the lineup? Now, there are two schools of thought in this. One is that the Patriots are not as good a team without Gronkowski in the lineup. And that's just, you can't really sugarcoat that any way you want to do it. They are way worse without Gronk. Now, I will also say this, though. The second school of thought is they are worse without Gronk when they don't have as much time to game plan around him. And if you notice, historically, when the Patriots have really struggled as a team, it's been when Gronk has been in the lineup, he's expected to contribute to the game, and then he goes out in the middle. You saw it against the Jets a couple weeks last week when Gronk went down to that back injury, and then all of a sudden the Patriots really struggled. They kind of woke up again in the third and fourth quarter and were able to close the game out. And I think that the Patriots now know they don't have to game plan with Gronk at all. They know what they get with him. They know what he's bringing to the table. He's out for the season. They're not going to have to be able to rely on him in any capacity, so they can game plan accordingly now surrounding the playbook and how they decide to run their offense. I think that will actually end up helping the Patriots long term. Now, that said, obviously, it's not they're going to be totally fine, but I'm hoping they do have enough weapons this time around that they can compensate. When Gronk went down in years past, they really didn't have much. They completely lost their offensive spark, so to speak. Edelman was pretty much their only guy they could go to. But I think with Edelman, I think with Hogan, I think with Amendola, Dion Lewis, and James White, I think they'll be okay to take Gronk out. And especially with this Rams secondary, which really isn't that good. It's a pretty big weakness of the team. Their cornerbacks there's really not anybody anyone probably would have heard of. Tremaine Johnson's okay. LaMarcus Joyner is all right. But there's nobody that I think is a true shutdown corner. And as long as the Rams can have trouble getting to the quarterback, as long as the offensive line can keep Tom Brady upright, should be a pretty easy day for the Patriots. Look for Dion Lewis to have a big day today. Look for James White to have a big day today. I'll be very curious to see how those guys factor in coming into it. I should also mention, since Rich is still frozen and you have any questions you want to post to the board, I'm happy to answer those. I'm paying attention to the comment section right now. So any questions you want me to answer, I'm happy to do that. Hopefully Rich will come back to us before this pregame preview is over. But if not, again, we can still kind of keep track with me. Rich, if you hear me at any point, just feel free to jump in and say hello, and we'll keep going with this.
Hey, everyone. I should be back now.
Hey, he's back. Welcome back, Rich. I was getting tired of hearing my voice.
Technical difficulties.
Well, welcome back. Did you hear all my rambling, or do you have no idea what we were talking about?
I heard you were talking about the matchups, and you're talking a little bit about Dion Lewis, and so I believe you must have been talking about how the Patriots are going to replace Rob Gronkowski in the offense. Is that right?
Correct. That's quick. I'll do a quick little sum up. I'm not. I no way am I making the case that Gronkowski is a good thing. The Patriots are not better without him. I'm better with him. There's no way you can sugarcoat the impact of that loss. Brady's QB rating with Gronk versus without is just very, very marked. There's no way to spin this. I mean, the Pats are going to be totally fine. But I also said the ray of hope is I feel like the Patriots have struggled the most when Gronkowski goes down kind of mid-game and they have to adjust on the fly to life without him. But now that they know for a fact he's on IR, he will not be back this year. He may even start next year on the PUP list. They can formulate their offensive game plan with that firmly in mind. He's not going to be factored in. They can completely X it out of the equation, and they can use the weapons they already have on the roster to compensate for that. So at least on the plus side, they're a little more, I guess, educated in how to go forward without Gronk.
No, absolutely. I think you look at what happened last week with the Jets game. We saw the Patriots offense kind of stall right before the half. And that was because the Patriots had all of these packages where, you know what, we're going to use Rob Gronkowski in the red zone. And he was gone. They didn't have it. And they didn't really have any backup plan, especially because Martellus Bennett went down with his ankle injury as well. So I think the fact that they were able to enter this game and say, all right, there's no Gronk. And we know for a fact that Martellus Bennett is going to be very limited this game. We can kind of work around that. We can figure it out. We're going to say we need to find a way to use the other players to emulate their production. And when we watch Rob Gronkowski, he currently leads the league right now in yards per catch. He's the Patriots' deep threat. And Chris Hogan offers a similar type of value, and I think that he can come out of the slot where he will be able to just attack down the field. I think that he can play the seams because Gronkowski, what he adds to the offense is just so much attention. I think that when you put Gronkowski up there and you have him run down the seam, he pulls the linebacker, he draws the attention of the safety, if not both of them, and that opens up the field for a few other players. And so I think that the Patriots are going to have to go out very early on and say, Chris Hogan is going to be our Rob Gronkowski up the seam. We're going to challenge you guys vertically, regardless of whether or not we have Gronkowski, and it'll be up to the Rams to stop that. But I think Hogan moving up and down the field will open up things for Julian Edelman, maybe Malcolm Mitchell, and the running backs as well, closer to the line of scrimmage.
Now, you mentioned that based on, I guess, the past couple of games, the answer might seem a little obvious to this question. But with Gronkowski out, obviously other players have to step up now and contribute where he would be a factor. And I think two guys who are primed to do so, although not in the same capacity, are Malcolm Mitchell and Danny Amendola. Malcolm Mitchell's really come into his own the past couple of weeks. Danny Amendola has been one of those guys, as he always has been, who's good for a handful of clutch, huge plays when he's needed. But do you see Malcolm Mitchell over Amendola as kind of the go-to guy, or is Rob Gronkowski's absence the opportunity for Amendola to become a more consistent part of this offense?
Well, I think that it's kind of an interesting question. It depends on how the Patriots want to adjust. And you always have to factor in this is the revenge game for Danny Amendola. He's facing his old team for the first time. So I think that Belichick understands what that means, and he'll give him at least a few snaps. I know that Belichick won't get overly sentimental, but he'll put him out there for a drive or two. And so I think Amendola will get his opportunities. But back to the Patriots offense pre-2010 to figure out what the Patriots are going to do. You know, where they had one tight end, they didn't have Gronkowski, they had Hernandez then, but I think that before they had Gronk and Hernandez, when they only had Ben Watson, when they only had Daniel Graham, when you go back to those times, more of what the Patriots are going to be playing on offense. I think they're going to use 3 wide receivers, and as you said, it's a question of whether they're going to use Amendola or Malcolm Mitchell. I think they're going to lean towards Malcolm Mitchell because they like what he brings on the outside. The Patriots have utilized Danny Amendola. It's been primarily in the slot. And I think that what the Patriots need out of that slot position is something that Chris Hogan can provide. Julian Edelman can provide it. But they need someone who can just say, I'm going to be on the outside if Chris Hogan's going to be playing in the slot. And I think that that's Malcolm Mitchell, who has proven time and time again that he can make the enormous catches on the sidelines. I think that he and Brady have those slant routes down pat. I think they're even working on those back shoulder plays. I think that Malcolm Mitchell is going to be the one that wins that matchup between Amendola and Mitchell. I see a big game out of the rookie here.
It's funny. We all should probably talk about you mentioned 2009, 2010 when they only had the one tight end and how the Patriots have suffered without Gronk in the past and how marked that difference is. I feel like this year, way more than others, the running game is available to supplement the offense when it really hasn't been in years past. I mean, we all remember all too well just certain offenses that had basically zero running game. Whether it was Lawrence Maroney, who was inconsistent at best, or, you know, like LeGarrette Blount going down. And then I feel like the running game this year, I feel like an unsung hero of the Patriots is running backs coach Ivan Fears, because he's done a phenomenal job with his unit. Not only are they running well, but they're a huge passing threat, and they're just like, they're happy. They celebrate. They're like jovial, like they congratulate each other. That's a very tight unit. You can see that. So I think the running game, as it's been going very well, will continue to do so. And having that kind of dual/triple threat with LeGarrette Blount, Deion Lewis, and James White will become up huge where Gronkowski's also absence.
No, I agree. I think you have to credit Dante Scarnecchia as well and the offensive line. But I think what's important to note is, as you said, the Rams will not have Robert Quinn, who is their top pass rusher. And the last time Robert Quinn missed a game, or I guess one of the times, he was out against the Buffalo Bills back in week 5. And LaShawn McCoy and the Bills gashed him for 193 yards. And so I think that Robert Quinn is a very, very important part of this Rams defensive line. Aaron Donald is outstanding, and rookie left guard Joe Thuney is going to have his hands full. And I would not be surprised if we saw Thuney just get embarrassed a few times today. But I think that there will be an opportunity for the Patriots to run the ball. And I think that we're going to see a lot of LeGarrette Blount going to the outside because they're going to love him one-on-one with the linebackers, because time and time again this week, the Rams have a lot of speed at linebacker. They have Alec Ogletree, Mark Barron, who's a converted safety. They have really fast players out there, but they miss tackles. They take bad angles. They're not very polished back there, we should say. And so I think that there is a lot of room for James White and Dion Lewis to kind of shake them out of their shoes, or for LeGarrette Blount to say, I'm just going to run you guys over. Good luck. And so I think that this is going to be a really good opportunity for the Patriots run game, just to drag the team down the stretch.
So would you hypothesize then that the Patriots game plan today to beat the Los Angeles Rams now is going to be primarily run heavy, use the run to set up the play action, and then go deep and intermediate with your shifty wide receivers? Is that your offensive game plan today if you're Belichick and Josh McDaniels?
I think that's absolutely what's going to happen. I think that they're going to kind of break them apart a little bit early on with running backs out of the backfield, a little bit of Julian Edelman here, a little bit of Dion Lewis there. I think that's going to soften it. So then you have the Rams defense are going to have to step back a little bit and say, all right, we need to watch out for these passes. And then they're just going to run LeGarrette Blount. And Blount's just going to just hammer him and hammer him and hammer him. And that's going to draw them up a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. And then Chris Hogan's just going to go down the field for a 70-yard gain. If I had to make a bold prediction for this, I think that Chris Hogan is going to pull up at least one 40-yard gain, if not two. I wouldn't be surprised if this is Chris Hogan's breakout game.
So is Chris Hogan your offensive X factor, Rich?
Chris Hogan is my X factor. I think that he has shown that he has a really good rapport with Brady. But we've talked about this before. I don't think that he is truly broken out yet. He's been very productive, but we're still waiting for that game where he has 7 catches for 100-plus yards and a pair of scores. And so I think that this will be that game because someone has to step up for Gronkowski. And I think that Hogan, while being a wide receiver, he offers a lot of the same receiving down the field, and I think that he can do that.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to actually touch on mine a bit, how it's Danny Amendola's revenge game. Not that it's really a huge thing around the Patriots for revenge games, but I think he's primed for a big one today. I think he knows there's a door open, so to speak, with Gronkowski out, and he has a chance to prove himself today as a very valuable part of this offense. I believe there's some rumors going around. There's no veracity to it, but he's might be gone after this season because of what his contract is versus what he brings to the table offensively. So he might actually take this opportunity to really show the Patriots how indispensable he actually is to the team. On the defensive side of the ball, no one's really giving the Rams too much of a chance to win this game for a lot of reasons. But if you're Jeff Fisher, who I believe the last 2 times Jeff Fisher's played the Patriots, the combined score was about 105-7 or 104-7, something around those lines. It was 2009 with the Titans where they lost 59-0, and then the game against the Rams in London where it was 45-7, or I believe was the final scores there. So if you are Jeff Fisher, you've been embarrassed by Bill Belichick twice the past 2 times you faced him. You're coming to Foxborough. You're kind of reeling a little bit. You just signed an extension somehow. How do you attack this Patriots offense? How do you win this game? How do you think we're the upset?
Well, you have to really just prepare yourself and say, where's Brandon? Where's Danny? I'm going to stop them. I don't know if any of you guys saw this, but Jeff Fisher, during one of his press conferences this week, he was asked about the Patriots running backs. And he started going off about, I really like what they've done with Brandon this year. And then Danny, he's just a huge weapon. He's just a really good weapon. And this was a question specifically about the running backs. And Brandon Bolden's played like 17 snaps all year. So I don't know what he's seeing of what they're using him out of the backfield. Didn't mention Dion Lewis or James White. And then Danny, that he was talking about Danny Amendola, that's even worse if they're answering a question about running backs and he's lost it after 2 and decided I'm going to start talking about wide receivers now. And so he goes about Danny Amendola, about Danny Woodhead. He doesn't know any better, I'm sure, or maybe he misspoke. He meant to say Dion, but said Danny. That's something that I'd allow too, but at least cop up to that. I don't think that Jeff Fisher really has a plan here. I think that he's just treading water. And you look at this Rams offense, I'm sure the Patriots defense is going to make rookie quarterback look like an all-pro. That's just how they try and make it work. But either the Patriots defense, the blueprint's out. Quarterback playing the New England Patriots defense, you know that you're going to have to lead 10, 11, 12 play drives if you're going to score. And that's how the Patriots play it. That's their gamble, is that young quarterbacks can't do that on a consistent basis. And we haven't seen enough of Jared Goff to know either way. Be there. I think that Jeff Fisher should know that, all right, Jared Goff is going to have some zone plays. He has to be aware. Patriots are just going to flip between man and zone to try and confuse him. And there will be opportunities to move the ball against the zone. Find that, and they have to take advantage of it. I think that they're going to really miss not having Tavon Austin there, because I think yards after the catch is going to be so important. And also, I don't think that the Patriots have a defender that really matches up well against a shifty slot receiver like Austin.
No, that's true. I'd actually love to see, to go back real quick about Danny, I'd love to see like a Belichick call a bunch of Danny Amendola like end arounds, just to like give Fisher some kind of validity to his worry about Amendola in the running game.
Yeah, entire series for Brandon Bolden.
Yeah, like Brandon Bolden and Danny Amendola in the backfield to open the game up would be an amazing screw you from Bill Belichick to Jeff Fisher, but it's probably not going to happen. But yeah, I think the key, I think, the best players on the Rams offense without Tavon Austin, probably Todd Gurley. Kenny Britt's actually pretty underrated. He's a big guy. He's got a rangy kind of arms in his receiving ability, but I don't know. I just don't look at this Rams roster without Tavon Austin at least and see a single player that I really have to worry about. It's really just going to single-handedly gash this team. And so I just feel like if they can confuse Jared Goff, which they will do, I think, with some complex blitz schemes. Alan Branch is back in the lineup permanently now, which is great. He's going to be a big factor in the run game. He's actually my defensive X factors, Alan Branch, against Todd Gurley. I think he's at the point of a big day today. I just don't see the Rams really having any real weapons the Patriots have to worry about kind of consistently. It's more just kind of make sure everyone does their job. Don't worry about, taking away their best weapon, so to speak. Just like play a solid game plan. They should be okay today.
No, I agree. I think that you have a kind of tough matchup between Kenny Britt and Malcolm Butler, because Britt has somehow had a renaissance with the Rams, but someone has to throw him the ball consistently. And I don't know if they believe they can do that. And so factor is actually Matt Patricia. I think that, as you said, you need everyone just to be in the right place. They need to have a good plan. They need to get all their ducks in a row. And they've done it 2 weeks in a row, in my opinion. I thought that they had a lot of success against the 49ers and a lot of success against the Jets. Malcolm Butler notwithstanding, he had some struggles. But I think that if they put together a third consecutive game, I know it's not been against the greatest competition, but I think that it would be a good sign for the defense moving forward. I think that would be a big confidence boost. And so I think that Matt Patricia needs to call a smart game. He also needs to make the adjustments necessary that over the first half, if he realizes that Jared Goff has figured something out, then they need to change it up. They can't be married to this idea of letting him run 11, 12 plays. I think that they need to pressure the rookie quarterback, especially with Roger Saffold out. The Rams will be without their best offensive lineman. I think that we need to see some opportunities for the Patriots to try and hassle the quarterback. Don't let him just sit back there and try and make decisions, because he was the first overall pick for a reason. He has the ability to make all the throws. Don't let him get comfortable. And I think it's on Matt Patricia to call defense that doesn't let him get comfortable.
Is there any concern on your end, Rich, based on last week, kind of comparing apples to oranges, but Brandon Marshall is a tall receiver. Malcolm Butler is a short defensive back. Kenny Britt's a tall receiver. And Malcolm Butler, unless he grew up in the past week, is still a short defensive back. He always has kind of struggled historically with guys who are taller than him, just because there's just physical mismatches that might be a problem. And Jared Goff, say what you want about him, he has a beautiful deep ball. Any concern about that, kind of Kenny Britt just being too big for Butler to handle?
Well, I don't actually think that they're going to put Butler on Kenny Britt. I think that this is a game where you see Eric Rowe matching up against him, because I think that's why they acquired Rowe. They needed to have some cornerback that was taller than 5'9", and Eric Rowe is 6'1". I think they match him against Britt because Britt is very good. And I think that, Brian Quick is a tall player as well, but I think that his ball skill ability is less. That means that Butler will have more of a chance against a player like Brian Quick than he would against a Kenny Britt.
Well, here's hoping. Again, I'm not overly concerned about it, but I haven't really made my official predictions yet. So unless you got any other final thoughts, we can get to that.
No, absolutely. Let's go to the predictions.
All right. So last week, let's see. Last week went to me. I almost called it exactly what's going to happen. The Patriots were down by 1. They get in field goal range. It came down to a Gronkowski field goal, and he was going to shank it. They must have heard me and be like, you know what? Let's go for it on 4th and 4. Let's go to James White instead. So I will take my victory and my credit for helping Belichick win the game against the Jets last week. Go with my prediction.
I'll allow it.
I guess the real X factor here in terms of the big picture is Greg Williams. Brady's, I think, 1-1 against Greg Williams' defense. The last time Brady lost to Greg Williams was in 2003 when he was the coordinator of the Bills. Brady threw 4 picks. It was 31-0. He got blown out. Then he went on and dominated again. I think in 2007 was the last time. That said, it's Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher is living the American dream in that he kind of just half-asses it all the time, never quite gets it done, but somehow keeps hanging around. Patriots are at home. I think they're going to be kind of galvanized behind the Gronkowski being out. People were talking about how they're done, they're mellowed. And this is one of those games where I feel like the Patriots come out and they answer, Gronk is gone. We are still very much here. You got to be worried about us. I think they win this one big. I'm going to go 31-10, but a garbage time touchdown is 31-17.
Oh, that's a good one. So the Patriots are 14-point favorites. And so you just picked that one exactly. I actually kind of agree with that one. So now I'm going to have to try and squeeze you out on that. I think that the Patriots are going to win this one. I do think that they answer the bell. I think that they are better on offense. I mean, they would just watch the Saints put up 49 points on the Rams, and it was because the Rams couldn't do anything. The entire strategy of the New Orleans Saints go towards Aaron Donald, and they had success. You know, if you don't run against a brick wall, you're going to move the ball. And so they just avoided Aaron Donald, so we're just going to run around the edges, and it worked. And so I think that we're going to see LeGarrette Blount just running around the edges. I think that he has 150 yards on the day. I think that, in addition, will open up for those multiple Chris Hogan deep shots. So I think this is a game where the Patriots just run wild. I don't think that they've had like a really major offensive output game this year. So I think that this might be it. I think that this is a game where the Patriots win, and it'll be something like 40-20.
40-20. That's a high-scoring game, and I like it. Awesome. We will soon find out. Pats Rams kicks off in about 20 minutes. Rich, any final thoughts?
No, hopefully everyone stays healthy because the Patriots can't really afford any more injuries on offense. I think that a lot of the players are about a week or two away from being better, but you can't have any setbacks this late in the season.
Yeah, hopefully they can wrap this game up relatively early, get Martellus Bennett out, get Brady out in maybe the 4th quarter. That'd be really nice. So let's score a lot really fast and then rest the guys who need to rest. I'm with you.
Absolutely. So this should be a good game. Everyone will have more information on patspulpit.com. Thank you for tuning in.